Chair O'Nines,
Here.
Vice Chair Brady,
Here.
Commissioner Ford, Commissioner Hancock,
Yeah.
Commissioner Moore.
And just to confirm, we have a quorum.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Looking for approval of the minutes of the meeting of March the 20th. Any changes?
No.
No.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair O'Nines,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Hancock.
Yes.
Okay, next we look at to Ms. Parker for changes in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no changes.
Okay, next we'll have, we'll open it up to the vast entire city for oral or written communications. Does anyone have anything they want to? Okay, we'll pass on that. Go directly to matters at hand. Preliminary and final design review for new single-family dwellings at 113 and at 117 Cervantes Court. Turn it over to staff for a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is John Paul Harries. I'm a planner with the City of Cotati. And the properties, the two items that we have today are two adjacent properties with very similar designs. So I think it's best if I speak about them together. And then at the end, you can make two separate motions. They are separate applications, so we do have separate resolutions. But I think it's easiest to talk about them. And we found that was the case at Design Review Committee, and that's the way we approached it. So they are adjacent properties. They're the last two properties in the Cervantes Court, which was called the Twin Creeks subdivision. This area is very low density. These are half-acre lots, single-family homes on half-acre lots. Within the Cervantes Court area, these are predominantly two-story residences, all with varying design styles. The exception to that is actually the property at 124 Cervantes, which the same developer also constructed. That property is built and has been constructed. And then also just for your awareness, the Cotati Creek is a tree-lined creek that runs along the backside of these properties. So it's the east side of the properties. You kind of got to look at the way that road hooks as it gets in there. So the backside, the east side, is where Cotati Creek's, and we're staying a good distance from that creek. So 113th Cervantes, this is item F1, begins on page 6 of your packet. This is a 2,962 square foot residence with 488 square foot garage, single story, kind of ranch style, about 21 feet 2 inches in height. Uses horizontal siding, asphalt shingle, hip roof. And it does include front porch and setback garage to comply with our standards. And it includes a predominantly low water usage landscaping plan that complies with our water efficient landscape ordinance. 117 Cervantes is item F2 that begins on page 25 of your packet. That home's 2,657 square feet with a 465-foot garage. It's also a single-story ranch, just a little bit shorter at 20 feet 8 inches. Roof is a little bit different. It uses a hipped roof in the back. Street-facing end has some gabled ends, and horizontal siding on the lower part of the building, and those gabled parts are shingled. And if you look at the color boards behind you, you can see the roof treatment and the color treatments that they're proposing. And similar with the 113, it has a front porch, a setback garage, and landscaping that complies with our WELO. At the Design Review Committee, they have 3 recommendations. We've incorporated all those recommendations in the conditions of approval that are attached to the resolution. They were the same recommendations for both units. The first one was actually to remove a condition that we had, which asked the applicant to incorporate the use of stone in either on the front facade or into the porch. We approached that for neighborhood compatibility reasons. And the Design Review Committee did not agree with that recommendation, so they asked that that one be struck. But they did ask for 2 other conditions. One was a condition to include a street-facing window in the living room, on that living room facade. So the front facade in the living room, they wanted to see a window. So that condition has been added. And then the third condition, I think, was actually a misunderstanding or misprint, but when you look at the elevation, the front elevation, one of the posts, the columns that supports the covered porch, seemed to have a different treatment. And we think it was an oversight. It's not really an intentional design, but they want to make sure that error was corrected. And so the staff recommendation is for Planning Commission approval of preliminary and final design review as conditioned. And with that, I'm available for any questions. Unfortunately, the applicant is not here, but I might be able to field some questions.
Okay, thank you, Jake. Are there any questions from the group?
I maybe have a general question, really, not specifically about this project, but it is mentioned under the stormwater that we're requiring as part of our requirements that you do filtration, and of course it's not really going to probably apply to this, but I've seen around the city a lot of plastic mesh with straw inside, and I picked up one of these plastic meshes from the stream about a month ago, and I'm wondering, what do we do with, how do we require protections generally for any of the building projects?
So let me make sure I understand. Are you talking about these kind of wire logs?
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are, pardon?
They made, the ones I've seen around the city of Kitati are plastic meshes with straw in there, and I think the idea is that they stop silting
That's
into the stream.
right. Yeah. Well, they use them for several things. One, if there's a slope, we use them to stop the flow, the erosion. Also, if a lot of times we'll use them to go around drop inlets on the road, so that debris that might be coming from a construction project during a rainstorm event does not go down into the storm drain. So, I mean, that's what we use them for, but what was your question?
Well, so we're at the same time being required not to have plastics in the streams
Right.
that rush, that goes out to the sea, and there's a whole body of requirements on that. Yet it seems to be that we're contributing to that, where those plastic. I pulled one out the stream. I actually sent it around. I apologize, I didn't send it to you, but I did send it to the rest of the staff. That it was just a surprise that I've seen other jurisdictions where there's more of a sustainable mesh that's being used. So have we got anything that says for best management practices that we should be using something that will naturally degrade? I mean, the straw naturally degrades.
Yeah, we definitely can look into that and make sure that we are including that type of condition that they use, those natural. I don't know the general availability, but you said you've seen them?
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
it. I mean, it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago I started seeing other places.
Yeah, and the ones I'm used to, I used to do a lot more of that type of work up in Lake Tahoe, and they were all biodegradable. So I think we can get to that,
Right.
And we should also have the inspectors making sure that the BMPs are not just floating around. They should be installed as required. and not going into a drain like that. Or
Right, well, that's what I
creek.
found on Water Road, and you can see on Water Road where the city had that project for
Yeah.
protecting the street, for protecting the road. Those are all done with plastic mesh.
Okay.
I mean, that was a couple of years ago, and they're still there. I mean, they're going to... So anyway, this is just a general...
But I will
question.
also pass it along to Public Works, these comments as well, because I think they're good, yeah.
Okay, it's not particularly applicable just to this project, particularly since we're at the end of the rainy season, but I thought I'd ask that.
Could you clarify, are you talking about these red, they're about an inch square, is that the?
No, they're probably about 3 feet long, and it's a plastic mesh with straw inside. And they're placed at locations where water is coming off usually an impervious surface, usually a road or could be a property, and they're designed to catch the silt and stop it getting into the stream. And the problem is they've been around Cotati, they seem to be in plastic. So it's that eventually the straw inside degrades, and these wash out. And I pulled one out the stream when I was doing some other.
Are you satisfied with JP's explanation?
I think it's making it visible. I mean, thank you.
Jamie?
Maybe Vic, you have something.
I would just add that if we wanted to make sure that this particular project, because it does back up to both of the projects, because they do back up to the creek, we could add a condition that requires them to be biodegradable. Because I don't know exactly when they would choose the plastic over the biodegradable, we might want to have some wording in there to the extent possible or pursuant to the city engineer's approval. But we could certainly do that with this project in addition to, as JP said, looking for it in the
happy with
future.
that? I mean, I'm just so long as there's some attention paid to it. We are at the end of the rainy season, in terms of that. So I'm not too sure what the stormwater plans would require at this point. But if this is a good vehicle for starting with it.
It is. Jamie, have you?
I don't have any questions.
I had a question, JP, and it's one of those things where I probably should have looked it up on Google or something, but on packet, page 16, item M from Mama, I don't understand the phraseology. The city blow off.
Yeah, you're not alone in that. Let me just say that same question came up at design review, and I get these comments from the engineers, and I incorporate them without too much editing, and I probably should have edited this one a little more. But so this is the water line is not a circular line. The water line comes up to the end of Cervantes Court, and there needs to be, when you have a line that terminates, you need to be able to tap it, open it, so that you can blow off water or air that's in the system, or if they're flushing the system, that they'll open it up so that they can flush the line. So it's mostly just a way to open up the water and let it flow so that they can blow off air or excess water pressure.
So it's a fairly standard condition?
Yeah, I think and it's just located in the sidewalk in front of these two units, and they wanted, they just wanted it to be indicated on the plan so that, there's no interference with that blow off.
Okay. I thought you put it in there just to emphasize my ignorance.
No.
Okay, if there are no other questions from the commission, we'll open it up for public comment. Did you have anything? Then we'll close it for public comment. And discussion between ourselves.
I think it looks a nice project, and that area is very nice. I'm glad to see some of the discussion about the trees that are in there, because it's a very, very attractive, sort of mature-looking area. Looks like there's some gorgeous buildings we're developing.
Are we comfortable with letting JP add this condition about the biodegradable? Or do we want to work up the words for it right now?
I'm happy that it's visible and that at least that has made the biodegradable is sufficient.
Okay.
I think.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's good, and I think that's probably something that we'd look at moving forward. So I think it's starting here is appropriate. I mean, with two of them backing up to the creek, I think that seems fine. I like this project, and I appreciate the work design review did and staff, so I think it looks good.
I'm kind of glad that it's completing that
Yeah, me too.
project, too. Then I believe we're ready for motions.
I'll be happy to make a motion to, I'm going to get to it. To
Page
approve-
9, yeah.
Page 9, okay, go backwards. Okay. Here we go. For the first one, I make a motion to accept, or accept resolution number PC 2017-4, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Cotati approving preliminary and final design review for a new single-family dwelling at 113 Cervantes Court, APN 144370025. Do you want the rest of it?
With conditions for the...
With the one condition on sustainable, biodegradable catchment, silt catchments.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call, please?
Chair O'Nines,
Yes?
Vice Chair Brady,
Yes?
Commissioner Hancock.
Yes.
Let me do the next one. Okay. Move to approve resolution number PC 2017-5, resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Cotati approving preliminary and final design review for a new single-family dwelling at 117 Cervantes Court, APN 144-370-024, with the conditions mentioned.
I second that.
And could we have that for a vote, please?
Chair O'Nines,
Yes?
Vice Chair Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Hancock.
Yes. And I assume the same
The same
provision.
amendment.
Yeah, same amendment will be on that.
Okay, both motions have passed. We'll now open it up for reports by staff. Ms. Parker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. After 3 meetings with the council, the 100 Valparaiso project was approved last week, so that one will, next step for that one will be final design review, so we'll look forward to that. Cotati Station, which is the multifamily project out on Santera Way, that one is actually headed to final design review pretty quickly. We're not quite ready to schedule it yet, but it's moving there pretty quickly. We're right now working on the park design. So that'll be a fun project to see through final design review. And the next items coming up for you all, I know we've talked about this a few times. It keeps getting pushed back for development projects, but the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, we'll be bringing that one to you shortly, along with cannabis regulations. So that's what we've been focused on for the last couple of weeks, is getting those both to you as quick as we can. And then finally, the next large project that you'll probably see coming will be going also to design review. That's Cotati Village, which is the map over by the cottages off 116 that was approved a while back, and design review expired on it. So we've been working with them to incorporate some of the new policies and objectives from the general plan. So that one will be hopefully coming to you all shortly. Still too far away to target a date, but shouldn't be too far off. So with that, I think, anything to add, JP? Oh, like sure, yeah.
We had a meeting today at the Sonoma County Transit Authority, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the big regional, serves all the Bay Area Transportation Commission, has a bike share. I can't remember their exact verbiage, but it's a bike share program where you can come and rent a bike. The bikes would be available. We're looking at the possibility of having 2 stations in the city of Cotati. They're not stations. They'd be basically drop-off points or pickup points. And I think we're looking at about 10 bikes, maybe each. They're still working out what numbers would be feasible. And we'd be joining with the county in this effort, as well as Marin County. It's basically to serve the Smart Line and areas off of it. So one of the places we'll be locating something, or we're considering locating, is at the Smart Station, of course, and then at the hub downtown area would probably be the two initial spots. Sonoma State will have one as well, but that's outside of ours. So it's a pretty big grant. There's a local match requirement, and I think there was a lot of concern from the local jurisdictions in being able to make that match. So we're looking at alternative funding source for that as well. Perhaps clean air, I get all the acronyms a little bit confused, but transportation, clean air, something. Sorry.
Purgatory.
I wasn't ready to really talk about it, but anyway, so we're looking at one grant to help us meet the match of another grant, and I think it's going to be an exciting little program. I certainly will update you as we move forward with it. So at this point, they just wanted to see where the cities were, because it had been over a year since we last discussed it, and they want to get, some level of commitment. Commitment would be helping with finding the locations within our city boundaries, taking care of the permitting, and of course contributing staff time for that effort and being involved. So hopefully it'll be a good program. They're becoming really popular in large cities and just now starting to spread into the smaller areas where it's a little more challenging to do it, I think, just because of the numbers.
Would that become our purview because we also serve as the bicycle committee, or there's a fancy name for it?
Yeah. The Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
And Ms. Parker, question for you. What at all would cannabis have to do with the Planning Commission? I don't understand that.
The land use portions, so which areas, which zoning districts would they be allowed in, if any, and use permit, what permitting threshold?
Okay, thank you. Any other thing from staff?
I think that's it for now.
Anything from our commissioner?
Would actually like to ask a little bit more question about the bike stations and stuff. I mean, is there going to be one at close to, this would be, I know, Roanoke Park Mall, but would it be close to SSU?
There'll be one. The idea is there would be one on campus there, yeah. And some of the ones you may have seen in the large cities, they are just that. They're like these major places, and the only thing you can do is park the bike there, and the bike has to be dropped off. My understanding of the system that they think would work best up here is it's not quite like that. You can actually leave the bike wherever you want, and once you lock it, you've essentially ended it. And then there's these apps, so you can go and pick up the bike there as well. The system is managed by people who kind of eventually consolidate these things back to their little station. So
right, I've seen the advertising for a bicycle lock that has a GPS built into it.
yeah, it's that. I think it's all that same kind of technology. So I know it's a brave new world.
I guess China has a lot of them.
We talked about that because there's this. China has a program which is supposedly cheap, and that it's almost at no cost to the local jurisdictions. But there is some concern that they're very, very inexpensive, maybe even dangerous. Some of the bikes, as well, they tend to flood communities with these bikes, and then they become a nuisance almost because they end up dumped. And they don't have the maintenance. But I don't know. What's happening is the China model is forcing some of the more prominent ones that exist in this country to compete more. So, and things are changing fast. I mean, one of our concerns was, it sounds like by the time we get a system online, it's already going to be outdated, just because of how fast everything seems to be changing with that. And so. That's obviously a concern, and something that's being written into people's contracts now, that, these bikes will be replaced after 3 years with the latest, greatest kind of technology. So I'll certainly report more out on it when I get some more information on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've used them in other places and in other cities when I've been visiting, and one of the issues I found was that 30 minutes, which they often do to get on the bike, to use the bike, just has not been long enough. I mean, I've just kept in underneath those 30 minutes, and so, I mean, one of the issues that comes up for me when I've been looking at renting in places is, in a sense, just what happens if you run into you don't return it in the time frame.
So you actually could only have it for 30 minutes?
Well, so I think this was in London that I saw it, that I actually was out there walking. We walked way out with my brother talking one day on something. We met up there, and then we came back. I was in a rush because I had to get a particular train, and I rented a bike. And the distance I'd walked, I only managed to get back within 25 minutes by cycling. So the 25 minutes or the 30-minute really it doesn't seem to be adequate for a window, is what I sort of found. I mean, an hour, and particularly, if I cycle up to Santa Rosa for something, it's an hour to cycle to Santa Rosa, so even on the smart bike path. So having sort of something that's reasonable, I mean, you need to be able to reasonably access the bike quickly, and that would be, I would think, a credit card or something or the other, but not to run into problems too quickly.
Yeah, we didn't talk about time caps, actually. That's first I heard of that. We talked about what the typical rental time usually is, and it tends to be rather short. They're kind of heavy bikes. A lot of people don't take them for big, long rides, I think. But I'll certainly keep that in mind as we look at these different systems, and make sure that you're not limiting someone to 30 minutes. I agree. That sounds really short.
I think, especially for around here, because you want to get down to Petaluma.
Yeah.
So if we're going up and down on the smart bike path, I would think you'd want to get up to Petaluma. And really one of the things that I think that could persuade people more to do it is the exercise.
Well, yeah, and we want people to use it. So, if they're going to take it for half a day, great. That's kind of the goal.
You would think on that.
Yeah.
But it's a timeshare on the bike. So I don't know. So somebody has.
Well, I'd rather see the bike rented than not, because it's not practical for someone to use it.
The business model is always gets to be interesting. Persuade people to take it and then hit them with extra fees. I don't know. But on that, I was on the Bike to Work day last week and watching and supporting it and having people came past. And there was one woman came out with a bike that she had made. It was absolutely gorgeous, out of bamboo. Oh. I wouldn't have believed it unless I'd actually seen it. But she was somebody who taught creative processes or creative classes at SSU. And she had this gorgeous... I mean, you had to see it really to believe it. And it's posted on the bike website, the Bike Coalition, the Sonoma County Bike Coalition website.
If you're interested, I have the draft feasibility study that was done, that the county did as part of their mode shift plan. And I can get you a copy if you wanted to read it. You can read about the various models that they're considering.
Sure, you could send that through. And I need to comment. I know the MTC has a site, don't they, that you can comment on some of this, and I've been meaning to go to it.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's doing, but...
I'll send you that paper. I don't know, it's probably about 90 pages thick. It's
right.
A pretty good feasibility study.
But, yeah, so we saw people out doing some cycling and quite a lot of support from SSU. As the big local employer, people knew about the Bike to Work Day and were coming past and everything. So the train station was an ideal location. So I hope we'll support that for the future as a way of being able to advertise that sort of bike side, and also it's Bike to Work and exercise.
Jamie, did you have any comments on the reports for staff?
No.
Okay,
I have one other question, if I could.
certainly.
So I'm just wondering on the status of SMART, and particularly the East Cotati Avenue signals. Do you have any visibility on when SMART might be, any commitment, should I say, and when they might be starting up?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask if I could add that because I forgot earlier. So that you probably have seen them running trains along at their scheduled times now. So they're not carrying passengers per se, but they're trying to run their schedules and work out the bugs. So, so what they've said is they'll be up and running with passengers next month, so in June. So, and coincidentally, we just, the city manager's office just took a lease to the council last week to lease the train depot to SMART to act as a customer service location. So we're hopeful that that will, it's a great location, it's a great spot for them to be in, and it's good for us, I think. So happy about that, very happy about that. Just helps us get the word out about multimodal opportunities. And as far as the lights go, the arms, is that what the concern is? I don't know sign language, but I got that part. I can certainly ask the city engineer about it. Are they acting erratically, or they're just not? We're wanting to know if they've been.
Well, I was just wondering if you had actually heard, because I spoke to one of the guys who was working on them, I mean, at the line there, and they have been apparently one of the signals that they've had to work at or to get it, and apparently they're also, one of the reasons for running the trains backwards and forwards is they have to do something to the rails. They have to treat the rails. Things you learn when you talk to somebody who's working on that type of...
I heard that too, but I didn't hear that it was in Katati.
Maybe it was a
Yeah.
bunch of them, and maybe I got some information that was not generally
Off the cuff.
Yes.
Well, I'll certainly bring it up to the city engineer, and if there's anything particular about the ones that are crossing, I'll ask him to update us.
Yeah, I just was wondering if there was any information that you'd heard. So I imagine SMART have got it under order, under sort of processing, doing what they need to do.
Okay, great, thank you.
And next is our reports by commission. Yeah?
Oh, sorry, I thought we were in
No,
there.
that's all right.
I apologize for jumping ahead.
It gets jumbled up.
As I said, I did the bike to work day, and I
Okay.
did all of that. So thank you.
Jamie?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Waiting that, I believe we're up for adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank you all.